Thank you, Don Zoli. Milenko is my name. I'm a recovering artist. But the good news is, I believe that normal communities, under normal conditions of care, respect, image of the future, are capable of extraordinary things. I know that because I've done it so often. The image you see in front, or in the back, is my hometown. I grew up in that square building where I learned to smoke. I played violin in a music school. City Hall is here. And Farmer's Market, where I was a beast of burden for my mother, carrying bags, was right there. The thing is that the most important space is that circular space, where nothing specific happened, but every function bumped into each other. And I grew up watching from my window the life of the community as it unfolded itself, as people danced and bumped into each other. However, while I loved my city, I did not like my society. The former Yugoslavia, the city is called Ljubljana in Slovenia, former Yugoslavia, where somehow they managed to honor mediocrity and the best talent was hidden on the fringes. I found that because the most interesting people were artists, and I decided to become an artist. I did strange things. Moses-like, I parted the wheat. I made invisible currents in the river visible for citizens. On New Year's Day, I brought the mountain, which is called Three Heads, the symbol of Yugoslavia, the tallest mountain, to the city for the weak and feeble who could not travel in the mountains. And the top head is me. Notice the abundance of hair. I put candles in a field to mirror the constellations in the sky. And I did this very successfully, traveled around the world, exhibited, until one day I exited the museum in which I worked on an installation, and the street on which I found myself was so utterly disconnected from what was happening in the museum that it shook me up. And I could not tolerate that dissonance anymore. So I did this. I walked away. And I disappeared from the art scene into what I believe you refer to as a white space. Was probably the most important decision I made in my life. In my community work now, I believe that unless somewhere in our trajectory there is the experience of that space where we are not preoccupied with our excellence and our career moves, from that whiteness, we can see possibilities that are otherwise clouded. We see what connections can be made. And now when I talk with my colleagues, many of whom are here, about their life's experience, almost everyone had that experience of white nothingness, where possibilities presented themselves. For me, the possibility was an image of the future that should be abundant. Many of you, there are so many resonances between all of us who are presenting here and who are in the audience. Obviously, we need to pay attention to our world. I felt the rumble that we heard. Though I did not hear it, I felt that after a while, everything that I looked at was filtered through this rumble, this sound. And suddenly, most ordinary things either were part of a new pattern or not. And when I saw something, like when I first came to the United States, I saw traffic jams. The rumble, the filter, told me that cannot last. When friends took me to McDonald's, I never went back because I knew that it could not last. The sheer volume of garbage we produced was intolerable to me. So I started the Pomegranate Center 15 years after inhabiting this white space to see if my artistic talents, no matter how meager, could be pushed out into life and community. Here's one work I did several years ago. A school asked me to commemorate a moment of destruction of the old school, where it had to be deconstructed, and a lot of sadness prevailed. And as the principal told me about needing something to address this sadness, a blue heron flew out of the rookery nearby. So we decided to create a painting of bird taking flight. It was done with a handprint of every child and teacher in the school, ended up looking like this. The waves on the water are signatures of the alumni of the school. So when my colleagues from the old artistic work that I did saw this, they were horrified. They were absolutely horrified. This is not art. This is not pushing the edges. This is not anything but mediocrity at work. But I want to tell you more where that mediocrity leads me now. This project was done with a community where math lab was located in exact location where we created this project in a trailer. Community took charge of the site, asked us to work with them. In 10 days, we built this thing that replaced the math lab with a gathering place for the community. In that same school where we created a painting, old I-beams were recycled into street lamps with artworks of children inhabiting each pole and connecting the community with the school. At the center of the school is a hand-laid terrazzo with a sign that says 5,000 years equals 1 foot. Light years equals 1 foot. It's a lesson plan for children. And we turned a place in Walla Walla, Eastern Washington, where drugs were being dealt, into a dance floor because that's what the community wanted. This last May, we started a project with a grant from Tallis Coffee, from Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, to do 5 projects in 5 months, to test if it's possible to do more than 1 project at a time. I'll show you some pictures. We converted this street alley into a gathering place. We converted a lot where Christmas trees are sold 2 months out of a year into a gathering place for the other 10 months. Everything that was created had to be moved. By the way, the wedges of wood, painted wedges, are on a Fibonacci pattern. We turned a small corner of a park into this small gathering place because the community told us they needed shelters for meetings. We converted exterior space of a library into a learning adventure for children to learn about nature. The trail is covered with hazelnuts. And we converted a Lutheran church property that decided they wanted to gift their property to the community into an amphitheater. The model is very ecological. We ask people what they want. We gather a group of leaders to attract those people to us. They tell us the vision. Our golden rule is, you, community, are in charge of the vision. We're going to serve that vision with our skills. We design, construct, and then a whole stewardship, ongoing maintenance happens, and a new project is usually born out of that momentum. This is kind of a boring chart, but it tells you an interesting principle in our work. The leaders who are represented by a steering group in the red triangle on the bottom are not decision makers, they're facilitators. They're the ones who link us with the larger community. And it's the larger negotiation that we need to accomplish. You're not a decision maker, you're a facilitator. And the green and blue on top represents the decision-making evolution. that starts with a day-long meeting where everybody speaks about what they want in their community, and people start designing it that same afternoon. We then take their charge and organize a series of design workshops to expand on their ideas. We return to them and say, did you have this in mind? And then we start managing, organizing volunteers. They start organizing volunteers. We buy materials, all that, and then we build it in 4 days. So all the projects that you saw were built in 4 days. They were built, so first of all, steering group, very important, that it represents all kinds of people that would be future users. Golden principle again, consult the end users from the beginning. People who have different interests, and at the end, our goal is to create a project with multiple victories. It's not for one group of people, it's for lots of people who can use it at different times for different purposes. Unless their voices are heard from the very beginning, multiple victories are not possible. It starts with this. You tell us what you want. We continue through design. We used to have this sand tray where people very quickly started to use their hands, because when people use their hands, we discovered they are much more creative than when we use our words only. And then it begins. Serious work. Look at this. We develop over time technologies. I love the little pinky on this front person, how delicately they deposit a dot on a banner. We learned how to create designs that allow for excellence and participation. And so a lot of dot making, a lot of small acts adding up to a powerful statement. A lot of carving, caressing. Many modern designers do not like this, they call it, this is just ornamentation. This is not important because the wood itself is so beautiful. But what we have discovered is that when people have a chance, they love to deposit their care, touch things, caress things. We know tons of opportunities that we have to express our anger and fear. But how often do we come together to deposit our care? That's why those carvings and dots are so important. So, everyone participates. A massive amount of work. I want you to notice this volunteer, the muscles they develop. Oh, that's me. You know, free gym. Stages. In the project where we, let me go back to this. When we had to create movable objects, we recycled bicycle wheels to create these wheelbarrow benches that can be rolled away. And in the winter time, when they're put against the wall, this image emerges so people can take pictures of themselves as birds taking flight. At the last hour of the 4th day on one of the projects, these were still all the volunteers who stayed on the site. What is the most amazing about this is this pride and ownership that is expressed, that at the end, people say, this is mine, I did this. Wayne and Puck talked about the transition from being a resident to citizen. I think that occurs in that process. At the end of the work, the project, we have a bunch of citizens surrounding us. And trust and safety. I will finish with this. The hardest thing to do in this kind of project is to manage tensions. There's an idea of what is possible, and that idea needs to be balanced with the reality of the situation. Small budget, short time, restrictions that the city has. And unless the leadership embodies a kind of flexibility that it always says both of those modalities are important, we're going to be stuck. There will be a realist group saying, let's finish the project right away without considering what the best optimal solution may be. And there is another group, idealist group, who says, we want to think forever before we decide to do anything. So this managing tension, I find, is the hardest thing to actually convey, because there are so many people who want to release that tension and it's either this or that. And as a creative student of creativity, I believe that tension is a constant condition. We may resolve it temporarily only to uncover a new tension. And it's always this dance between doing it fast but thoughtfully, doing it with lots of people but still have excellence at the end. The way we manage these tensions is through a series of tools that I think are relevant to anyone who wants to work with communities. We ask people to abide by a set of ground rules. And some are very simple. We all know them. Listen, be respectful, don't take too much time to talk, and so on. But we stretch that. One of the ground rules is, are you willing to change your mind in view of new information that somebody else will bring to the table? Are you willing to turn your no into a yes, meaning if you don't like something, are you willing to discipline yourself to come up with something even better? Under those conditions, we found, it was the first time when I imposed those ground rules, somebody stood up and says, could I please go back to my communist country of origin? But afterwards, now people ask us to work with them precisely because we have proven that when invited, people are perfectly capable to behave well, to be thoughtful, to be creative, to be imaginative, and to be respectful all at the same time, and accomplish great things in a very short period of time. So I think as I looked at all of us, what we're doing, we are collectively creating conditions where we can together, across our differences, be at our best. And I can tell you this, we work really hard on this project. Imagine in 4 days going and building all of this. But people are joyful. They're incredibly joyful and happy. And they become brothers on a journey that is not unlike climbing a tall mountain together. Brothers and sisters of all ages. So the other part of this, our success, is that hands are as important as minds and ideas and emotions, and there's some magic that happens with hands. That momentum is a precious commodity that we waste all the time. And how often we go to the meeting to say something, to give our best ideas, and then nothing happens. And we lose that momentum. Especially sustainability-minded groups waste that momentum all the time. I don't know why, because we like to talk. It's not sustainable. Improvisation, it simply means let's be tough on ideas, let's be gentle on people, let's focus on the essence of what we can do together and not sweat the details. Let's trust that the details will emerge from lots of people who already know what they're doing. And we're discovering that constantly. And the bottom line is, if we do this well, at the end, like this girl, we will feel that what's being created is owned by me, that by extension, then, we should envision communities where that umbilical cord between us as residents and citizens of those communities and what is out there, streets and architecture and parks, that there is a part where we can say, this is me. Just like this girl knows exactly where her handprint is. So I leave you with that. Thank you.